Welcome to the next video of Section 5, Creating an Environment, Getting Started. In the previous video, we've learned about importing assets. In this video, we'll learn how to create an environment. Our adventure game will feature 3 separate but connected scenes which the player must explore, moving from one scene to the next. The player may travel between scenes simply by walking off the edge of one and then moving into the next. Each scene consists primarily of platforms and ledges and in some cases dangers and obstacles. In terms of graphical assets, each scene is made from 2 textures or sprites, the background and foreground. An example for scene 1, which is shown in the screen, that represents the background scene and represents the foreground, which includes a complete layout of all the platforms and ledges that the player must traverse. These files are included in the video companion files in the section 05/assets folder. Let's create the first level now. To do this, use the existing empty scene or create a new scene, ensuring that the scene camera is configured to display textures at their native size. Then drag and drop both the background and foreground sprites from the project panel to the scene. Both will be added to the scene as separate sprite objects. Then position them both to the world origin at 0, 0, 0. If you drag and drop both the background and foreground textures together as one selection from the project panel to the scene, Unity may ask you to create an animation when you release your mouse. In such cases, Unity assumes that you want to create an animated sprite in which each selected texture becomes a frame of animation played in a sequence. You don't want to do this. Instead, drag and drop each sprite to a separate hierarchy panel, allowing both the foreground and background to be seen at the same time. Both sprite objects are now added to the scene at the same world position, 0, 0, 0. The question arises now as to which sprite Unity should display on top, given that both sprites overlap one another. Left as it is right now, there is a conflict and ambiguity about depth order, and we cannot rely on Unity consistently showing the correct sprite on top. We can solve this problem with 2 methods. One is to move the sprite forward in the Z-axis, closer to the orthographic camera, and the other is to change its order setting from the object inspector. High values for order result in the sprite appearing atop lower order sprites. Here I'll use both methods, and that's fine too. Note, however, that order always takes precedence over position. This means that higher order objects will always appear on top of lower order objects, even if higher order objects are positioned behind lower order objects. Before moving further, let's get organized in terms of scene hierarchy to prevent overcomplication and confusion happening later. Select each environment object and name them appropriately. I named the background scene_background and the foreground scene_foreground. Having done this, create a new empty game object named env for environment, which will be the ultimate parent or ancestor of all static, non-movable objects in the environment. This lets us group together all related objects easily. To do this, choose Game Object, Create Empty from the application menu. Position the created empty object to the world origin, and drag and drop both the background and foreground objects as its children. By switching to the Game tab, we can get an early preview of the level as it will appear to the gamer, in terms of mood and emotional resonance. This feel can be enhanced further by adding some camera post-process effects. These refer to pixel-based effects that can be applied to the camera in order to enhance the atmosphere of the final rendered image on each frame. The image effects are included in the effects package, which you should have imported during the project creation phase. If you did not import the package at that time, you can do so now by navigating to Assets, Import Package, Effects. The image effects assets are stored in the standard Assets/Effects folder. Once imported, you can add image effects to the selected camera via the application menu by choosing Component, Image Effects, and then choosing the effect to add. For this level, and all other levels in the game, I'll add 2 image effects: Bloom Optimized and Noise and Grain. Once added, you'll typically need to adjust the sliders and settings in the inspector to achieve the look you want. Continue previewing the result in the Game tab. The Scene tab remains unaffected by image effects. The complete range of settings I've used for both image effects are included in the screen. In many cases, these settings will take some trial and error, tweak values and observe the effect. Good work! The scene so far features a background and a foreground taken from texture files and enhancing special effects using the Image Effects Assets package. This is a great start, but there's still much to do, so let's move on. In the next video, we'll learn about environment physics.